Sunday at Mike's. We're here at the Upstairs to the Right studio in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, bringing you another show here, 11 p.m. Central European Time. Wherever this finds you in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, I do want to say welcome to you. And I also want to remind you, I always start out by saying that I'm always very grateful. Ooh, let me turn that down. Very grateful for your time. Spending a little bit of your time, a valuable thing with me is time well spent, I hope, for you and greatly appreciated by me. So welcome, guys. Hey, Scott, how you doing, sir? How you doing? Welcome to everybody in the chat. I want to give a shout out as we wait for more people to show up here. Yeah, what's been going on here in the Upstairs to the Right studio? Well, as Scott has put up here in the live stream, and you're welcome to in the rerun to take a look yourself. Is I got myself my pocket master in Mr. Watson, Tommy Mack. Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome. Good to see you guys. All right. I'm trying the multi-screen thing here again, so if I lag a little bit here, guys, tonight, I'm twisting my head here. And boy, did I milk that! I have milked getting that Pocket Master for what I could because I told you I was going to start producing more YouTube Shorts, and honestly speaking, as a kind of experiment. So I said, well, why don't I take a regular content video and cut it down into a short as well and release those at the same time? And first of all, I wanted to see, what the response on it's a little. Let's be honest. There's a lot of Pocket Master videos out there, and I wanted to put one out anyway because I thought I had something to add to the conversation after looking for a few of them. Second thing was I wanted to see the stats on putting up a regular content versus putting up a short, and I was very surprised because regular content videos barely hit 50 views, whereas the short version that I cut, which by the way, if you notice the progression of the quality of my shorts are going up and up. I'm really sitting down with my editing software and learning how to produce proper shorts with a proper aspect ratio, text to all that stuff syncing up with the video. And this is the first one that I feel I've finally gotten about 95% there. So just on a technical standpoint, the short that I put out earlier today is much better than the ones. And so from now on, now I'm getting a knack for it. It should get a bit better. But yeah, 50 views on the regular one, 500 plus on the short, and climbing. Um, they're really pushing the shorts, which is okay because I don't care. Either way, I have noticed that if I produce shorts, as you know, the algorithm kind of swings my way again. So that's all right. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. If I'm going to do a regular clip and I'm going to cut that down into a short, and either way, it seems to work out. I enjoy reaching people with it. The short seems to be the one that reaches people very quickly. So good for that. I'm not complaining, but it is a little bit extra work. You look like CJ. I don't know who CJ is, but thank you. Good to have you, Benjamin. Good to have you here. Um, yeah, guys. So yeah, I milked the hell out of this thing. Uh, Here it is. So this is the Pocket Master, and that's what it looks like when it turns on. Latest version, and I set up. This is no preamp on it, uh, with a noise reduction, an EQ, a boost, and just a really nice cabinet on it. and I use this on my pedal board in conjunction with that real old Noble preamp that I have. And honestly speaking, compared to the pedal whose place this took, the Moore Radar, I really, really, really like this much, much better than the Moore Radar. The Moore Radar is a far more expensive. It's an older pedal, but this has a lot of things going for it. The fact that I can have an EQ, a few effects on it. I don't have to. The preamps in this, I have to be honest with you, they kind of they're not the best. Uh, and an external analog preamp, however, in conjunction with this, sounds just gorgeous, gorgeous. I have to say I'm really happy with the sound of it, and it's my sound. I can dial in my sound. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing with this unit, is because they're trying to use the presets in it, and it has quite a few presets in it, but yeah, but this one is the one that I set up myself. Took about, from the minute I unpacked it to the time that I set this up, took about 15 minutes. Not very hard to use. That's another beautiful thing about this, is that you can do it just from here. I did use the phone software, which worked fine too, but you can do it just straight from here as well, and very quickly, very intuitive. I like intuitive stuff, so that's another great thing I can say about this. Preamps, not so great. Some of them are just really terrible. But if you use it with an external preamp, it sounds really nice. Sounds really nice. Not bad. Only the size of two GoPros. Yeah, I haven't seen the Pocket Master content yet. I'll watch both versions later. Thank you, Tommy. Hell no, CJ is the main tier of GTA. Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry, Benjamin. I didn't know that. GTA is a popular video game. Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, man. Have to be honest with you, Benjamin. I have never played Grand Theft Auto one day in my life. I not to say that I don't play video games, but I'm kind of more of a Star Wars video games kind of guy, to be honest. But all right, I hope CJ is a good looking guy. But anyway, guys. So I have to say, and also I let it run down so that I could get it, to see how long it lasts, because they say that the battery and the lithium battery in here, which, yeah, I have to agree with you, Scott, that is a failure point, which I'm not happy about. But anyway, it should last, hopefully, knock on wood. But one thing that I can say is that I let it get down low power mode, real down to 1 bar, to see if there was any sag in the sound at all when it got that low. And I honestly couldn't tell. I've since recharged it again, but even at low power, it seems to function pretty okay. So just putting it through its again, it's not metal, but it is not a cheap plastic that I thought it was. It's actually a little bit more substantial plastic enclosure than I thought. So I'll give it a little bit more points than that. As you know, I like metal enclosures. But this is not bad though. This is not like cheap plastic, by the way, which is astounding. Again, considering the price of this unit. It's pretty awesome. I have to say. So I have. Let me shut it down. I have not too many bad remarks to say about this unit. I have to say that it is probably going to end up being probably one of the most sold units of 2025. The sales of this thing is through the roof, and I have to say, for $50, I got $50 for $50 shipped. It's not it's not a bad thing. Again, application, if you're you can't be lazy with it, you kind of gotta dig into it, and I think, again, it works best with external pedals. I think you want to use it really for a cabinet and for EQ and effects. That's about it, which is what I'm using it for. But when you use it like that, boy, it's nice. It's really nice, especially if you have a nice preamp pedal like that Noble. But that's about what I got to say to you guys about it. It is going to be on my board for quite a while. I'm happy with. Next is to see how recording. I haven't set it up for recording yet, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm happy with it. I can't say that it's such a bad thing, actually. After all, And again, for the price, it's it's the Moore radar is about 3 times the price of this. Actually, still out there, even though it's an older pedal. Anyway, there's that. Tonight we're talking about the state of the guitar market in 2025, and honestly, a lot of it just feels to me meh. Prices keep climbing, new releases don't feel really new. And even when you think you scored a deal, you really, might find that reality is going to hit you hard on that. And I have a story I want to share with you I read tonight in regards to it. Kind of inspired this whole conversation. A story that I read that I found very interesting. Actually, a story that I read and a YouTube video that I saw too kind of inspired this tonight. So I want to talk about today guitars today, overpriced, overhyped, or just meh. I want to talk about that tonight. We're going to cover overpriced new gear, overhyped marketing, and a story about a guy in the States who thought he had scored on an import deal until customs made it a nightmare. And I want to share that story with you as well. I find that very interesting, and I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, just drop in the chat, guys. Everybody here is welcome to join in the discussion that we're having here. I'm really surprised by as many people who are checking in and out or lurking in the background. Just drop in and say hello to. You can just say hi real quick. Even if you're just dropping through, love to hear from you. But love to hear in the chat. What's the last piece of gear you bought, and did it feel like a win or a meh? Um, I have to say that this is the last piece of gear that I've bought, and it feels like a win to me, especially at $50. I know guys who are buying 2 of these, and they're doing some interesting things with them. One will suffice for me, but I have to be honest with you, it really makes that clone of mine sound good. Clones really work best to taking an amp that's on the edge of breakup and just pushing it over, giving it that so-called transparent overdrive sound. And I really couldn't get that out of the Moore. Everything just kind of, you couldn't get that edge of breakup kind of thing going with the Moore. You couldn't. With this Pocket Master, you can. You can because I'm using external preamp, get that to the edge of breakup going through a nice cabinet, and then kick in the Klon, and it really makes it sound fantastic. A fantastic overdrive. It's a reason why I've held on to that pedal so long. And it's really a pleasure to hear that. So it feels like a win to me, actually, in a lot of ways. I guess you guys can hear in my voice. Let's start with the obvious meh is the prices of things. I'm hearing all these stories about how Las Vegas is dying. Nobody is showing up in Vegas. I'm seeing stories not just in Las Vegas. I'm hearing that the nightlife in Australia is extremely bad, especially in some of the Melbourne and some of the capitals cities there. I can say that in the UK, that's also a case as well. Here in Amsterdam, no. Just yesterday, I went to the sales event, which sales is not sales as in SALES, but SAILS, sales, like boats. And it was 750th anniversary of this maritime thing they have where all these boats from all over the world come into the harbor. And boy, that was a party yesterday. I saw for the first time, I saw somebody took the time to rebuild the Santa Maria. You know, there was three ships that were under Columbus, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Somebody made a duplicate, a copy in 2016, I believe I read, of the Santa Maria in exact duplicate in size. And boy, guys, to see a Spanish galleon like that in real life and to get the scale of the size of it, it is insane. Um, but so things are kind of jumping here, but things are always jumping in Amsterdam. But a lot of places that you would expect it to, they're not. And I think that this is a reflection of the economic situation out there. I just think that things are no good. Signature Dave Davison Jackson Pro Warrior 7 string. To be honest, Mike, once I got it home a couple of months ago, I put it away and haven't seen it since. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes some guitars sound like a great idea, you know. Like I have to put that Dan Electro in that kind of thing, Scott. I can understand that. But I have guitars that about 5 years ago I never opened the cases up. Well, sometimes you put them away because you got plans for them other than playing them. It's like some of my dust collector guitar, Scott. Yeah, yeah. This living around the world that I've done has not really allowed me to again, you know, keep a collection. So, hey, Mike. By the way, good to have you here, man. So, an American Pro Fender costs around 2,000 euros right now. And Gibson standards are even higher. I looked at one the other day in shop and my eyes just watered. And that's before you get into custom territory. Um, Custom shop territory is like buying a used car. Let's be frank these days at the prices. And, you know, when I just go back a decade ago um, to 2015, and the guitar market, again, was up there, but I could get a brand new nice Gibson Les Paul P90. What did I pay? 2,000 Singapore dollars. So about maybe $1,800 US, brand new, I could get it for. And there's no way you're going to get anything like that now on a guitar like that. And even entry level guitars. Like again, I this channel once I moved from Singapore here, one of the big things that gave me a boost when I set up shop here was getting that Epiphone Les Paul. And look at the version of it that's out now. The price that I paid for that versus the version that's out there now is astronomical. It's really up there. Deemer, welcome. How you doing, brother? How you doing? Welcome to you up there in Russia. Only music. Pick a topic, and I'll give you a wise quote behind it. Um, a topic: the right cheese for a dinner party. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Tamir. Welcome to you, Only Music. Mike says, "Cheers to the guitar crew and our favorite man in Amsterdam." Thank you, sir. Well, welcome to everybody. Yeah, it's just getting crazy. And in the used market, it isn't really that much better. Some used guitars are priced as high as new ones or more. You know, I have to seriously sit down and reevaluate my pricing structure for my guitars. And, um, and that's just the reality of the situation. uh, and you have to adjust your business to the situation. But to be honest with you, I'm revising down because honestly speaking, the prices are not really reflecting. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. Let's just say that in the used market, some used guitars, like Squires, are going for vintage money, and it's just because they're 20 years old, and that's really not a good reason. It shouldn't be a reason. Um, the right cheese is the bridge between a good meal and great company. The right cheese is the bridge between a good meal and great company. So, like a cheddar or a brie, or maybe even like a blue cheese. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there. You did say any subject, but I like where you're going. Super League 100 seems like guitar prices, especially used, are coming down based on what I've been seeing as of late. Yeah, honestly, Super League, and welcome, 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 welcome. Again, what somebody's asking and what they're getting is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in that equation. And so, yeah, I'm revising down because the asking prices out there on the internet don't really reflect the real reality out there, and we have to base ourselves on reality. Businesses, unless you're Willy Wonka, aren't built on dreams and hopes. So yeah, dig that, man. Mike says I got a Les Paul special in 2022 P90s with hard case for $16.99. Yeah, I do believe mine wasn't a special. Mine was a standard for $1,800, and that was 2015. Brand new, glad I got it when I did. Great playing, great sounding guitar. Yeah, it's a deal. It's always interesting just to sit back and look at just 10 years ago. What a difference a day makes. 24 little hours. Well, in this case, 10 little years. Um, yeah, folks, it's just something. Now, it's not just retail either, my little scene. Um, uh, Actually, the other side of my scene, there's two coins, the retail side of it and the import side of it. Importing can be brutal these days. Saw this YouTube video of this guy in the States, and he's basically, just to boil it down, he thought he scored a deal of a lifetime on an import guitar, which was $2,000. But when it landed, custom slapped him with an $1,800 bill. Suddenly, he's in for $3,800 on this guitar that he thought was worth $2,000. That's not a deal. That's a punishment. And federal duties, state use tax, FedEx, UPS rates, all of these things are really cutting off the Canadian and the European, and the United States market for a lot of people for importing guitars. And the ripples of that are going to reflect in the. I hate to say it to you guys, because let's put on our thinking hats, like Sheldon does, and say to ourselves, okay, if importing guitars in from elsewhere is kind of a drag now, that means that the ones that are within our market, and there's a considerable amount, are going to be really the focus point. That really means that gap between what people are asking, on the ground, and what they're paying on the ground are going to widen even further. It's going to be a mess in the market because of things like this. This is a real story. It's really happened to this guy, and it's not a really good feeling either. Wow, $2,000. Yeah, I'll pull the trigger, as they say, on that deal, and then you find out that it's really effectively costing you double, double, double. Scott says, I find it's that affordable guitars are becoming even more affordable, but expensive, highly desirable guitars are inflating. Yes and no. It really depends. I think, like I said, the Fender line is, I think, are getting to which were supposed to be affordable, are getting up there. Again, the Epiphones, I think, as well. So, but I can kind of dig that. So this push towards Europe is really happening, and that affects me because that's kind of my bread and butter. So I've really got to come down as well because they're saying, well, we can't sell it to the States. Where are we going to sell this to? Well, guess what? So there's that. Um, there can be some surprises when you start importing things out there. And I explained that to one of my clients the other day. I said, hey, one of the benefits that I bring to you is that there's no surprises, and you can go ahead and try to move these in yourself, but unless you really know how to navigate those waters, you're going to run into some expensive surprises. So there is that. Super Lead says, I've been buying Tokai Love rocks for a few years now, but I'm concerned about importing into the U.S. now. Yeah, I think that story that I just told there, Super Lead, is a cautionary tale. I think that you should take it as such because it seems to me that it's a roll of the dice. They may decide to wave your package through, or they may flag it and decide to stick every kind of everything they can on it as possible. So that is not an attractive deal, for a lot of people. $3,800 is big money for a guitar. I limit myself to 2K for a guitar, no matter how great. Hard limited 2K or walk away. Well, that's what he thought. That's the point, Mark. He thought that was his cut. That's the most. I believe he even said that. That's the most that he would spend. He thought that I was including shipping and all the other things. Those other additional costs that got added on were quite a surprise to him. It's because of some of the changes that are occurring with tariffs and things in the United States. And so, yeah, and then shipping too. The shipping companies are really gouging a lot as well, and it's a shame. It's a shame that happened to them. Overhyped. Overhyped. So while prices climb, what are we really actually getting? Mostly recycled ideas. I've talked about that. We've discussed that. Reissues, new colors, limited runs, limited. It's the same Strat or Les Paul, just repackaged, 6 ways to Sunday. It's the same guitar with very few modifications on it. And, Fender really, with the Stratocaster, is one of the biggest offenders, I think. Endless reissues of that guitar. I saw a short while I was looking at my short on YouTube about a Gibson Murphy Lab aging process, and it looked like somebody it didn't look natural. The idea of an aging thing is to mimic, age, and maybe in some cases playing age. But that just looked like somebody did a crappy paint job on it, where everything, the finish was cracking. Uh, and then, of course, there's pedal market where you have the boutique guys, but they're really just cloning an 808 circuit or a Klon circuit or something like that. It's really just the same old, same old. And then they overhype it as being the next best thing since, gravy and biscuits. And trust me, it ain't as good as gravy and biscuits. The hype machine is strong. The force is strong with this one. The hype machine is strong. Nitro finish, aged hardware, custom wound pickups. These are all buzzwords that justify a higher price. Custom wound pickups? Okay. That would again, words have meaning. So the meaning of that would, and implications, that would imply some kind of exclusivity to it, like a handmade watch or something like that. But is it really all that? And maybe even there's another kind of buzzword there. That's just to justify a higher price. Does it actually change your playing? Probably not. But the hype convince is there really to convince you that it does, that it will, that it could. And so, honestly, folks, we just want to sit back and say to ourselves, what is real innovation? You know, versus once you got a nice, decent strat, honestly, you don't really need another one. You got one you like that works for you, you pretty much well got, because there's nothing out there that's really going to, it's going to be such a big difference, in terms of the design from what you already got. So there's that. But to be fair, there is innovation out there. I think things like this, if I had something like this in the recording studio, let's go back. Let's say 35 years ago, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, I would just be overjoyed because this is something. Um, I can get a Strat now that's no different from one that I could have gotten 30 years ago. So, with IR loaders, digital modeling, small portable rigs like the Sonicake, there's innovation happening there, but it's all buried underneath all the hype about the same old other stuff. So, it doesn't really stand out when something doesn't come along. The sales do. I think, like I said, the amount of sales that this unit has had is really going to be reflective of that's a vote of confidence from the consumer that hey, this thing is actually pretty sweet for especially for the price, and I'm sold on it so far. It's like I said, I'm still putting it through its paces, but for my applications, it's great. Good time to use a Guitar Finder broker. I think it's worth it to have someone else take care of importing shenanigans. Yeah, like I said, you guys can always contact me through my email. I can help you walk through that process and even help you find a guitar. So that is a service that I absolutely will always offer to you guys. When I was young, VW bugs were everywhere. Les Pauls are the VW Volkswagens of guitars. Yeah, I agree with that. Chevy has a full parking lot full of custom pickup trucks. The custom badge is the only difference. Yeah, that's another. That's a good one. The car table. I saw a YouTube guitar guy from Scotland, Dusty, that used to buy guitars from Japan through Digimart, but unlike you, he does not have anybody in Japan like your agent over there. His guitars are beat up. Yeah. Um, before I, if I buy it, I buy it through the agent. He gets it. He inspects it first. If it doesn't pass muster, we send it right back. We had one get through, and that's because we were rushing, and that was a bass. If you guys remember, Fender bass, that ended up being a fake. But yeah, you need because on platforms like Digimart and places like that, you can get ripped. You can get ripped really good, and you have to know some of the other places, the non-online places that you can go to in order to find deals. So there's that. Um, so what was the last piece of gear, by the way, guys, that really impressed you? Not just marketing hype, but something that really delivered. I'd be interested to hear that. I just think that things are just meh. I think that there's just an overall general fatigue. not just in general. You know, we this consumption thing leads nowhere. I know, but sometimes buying things for your studio or whatever it is you're doing, if that's your business or if it's just your hobby, either way. Sometimes you can add things in that are really going to make a difference or streamline something. But in a market where you have overpriced gear, overhyped marketing, and hidden costs, people feel burnt out. And even if something innovative comes along, uh, the market is just stuck in a loop and it just won't feel special. And, you know, I am trying to build a very streamlined, scaled down studio because when you produce music these days, the cost, you have to take in the cost of what it takes. And the less gear, you're running less power, so that's less power bill. That's one less cost there. When you're focusing on a little bit of decent equipment, uh, then you're focusing on the music instead, not on turning 50,000 knobs. And so sometimes the magic isn't in buying the latest thing. It's really, see, I always bring it back to this. It's funny. This is always the ending theme of all these discussions that I always have with you guys is that it's about making the most out of what you already have. It's back to I'm good. Or sometimes rescuing something that's maybe been overlooked. But the magic is really in making the most out of what you have. So there's that. My Tokai Silver Star would be the last strat I will ever buy. Kick ass. Yeah, that Silver Star that I had in, that Candy Apple red one I had in, boy, I love that guitar. I wish I could have kept it. Couldn't, but that was the nicest strat ever. Sounded nice, felt nice. I was glad I was able to use it for some recording. The last thing that really impressed me was the Crybaby 5350. Much better than my original Crybaby. Yeah, I have the mod tone, the old 2000 or mid 2000s mod tone vintage wah pedal, and it's been okay, but I would like to maybe take a look at one of these 5350s, because it's okay wah pedal. And it's actually now that it's discontinued, they're actually kind of respected. But yeah, wah pedal is something that I'm working on. It's funny you should mention that. I've been, as you can tell, I've been thinking about a wah pedal down the road. If I've already got it, then I'm good. And I used it for recording on a lot of tracks. So I'm used to it now, but there's got to be something that's a little better. I don't know. I just don't like sometimes I just feel it's a little stiff um, with the curve, with the volume curve. Yeah. So really making the most of what you got, guys. That's all it comes down to. Just making the most of what you got. If you can do that, then you're doing all right. Again, the addition of the Pocket Master to my let me plug it back in here so I can continue charging it. Wait a minute, is that charger? Yeah, that's charger. Really, honestly, I think is one of the more interesting innovations I've had in a long time because I was able to remove three pedals off my board just with this one thing. It took the place of quite a few things actually, and added on a few things, and it's got me interested in recording, and that's a good thing. One, especially, and it's not expensive, and it's got me interested. It just works really well on my pedal bomb recording board, and so I mean, it's one of those cases when a piece of equipment can inspire you to write music because I'm very curious to hear how it sounds recorded. So there's that. I keep hearing the Digitech wall pedal is a cool one. Anybody have any experience with it? Well, that's the wall pedal that Prince used. Prince used the Digitech pedal from, I'd say from the 90s on, he was using that red Digitech wall pedal. Apparently, well, if he used it, it must not have been bad. Thing is, those are hard to find. I've been looking for one. And at least in the places that I'm looking, those things are hard to find. It's particularly the one that he had. That's the one that I'd really like to have. So there's that. Because I've heard him use it. I don't know if I can use wall. I've been using wall pedals since I was 14, but I'd like to have that. There's a lot of May out there, but if you know where to look, vintage markets, overlooked brands, or really, frankly, in some of you guys' cases, your own toolbox. Open up some of those cases that haven't been opened up in a few years. There's still plenty of excitement out there to be found. So there's that. Uh, the guitar market has been meh, but making music never has been, and it never will be. Don't let the industry weirdness stop you from making music. But I do acknowledge that there is a general malaise out there at our particular table. As I say, YouTube is a high school cafeteria. Our table is the guitar nerds table. And there's just this kind of everybody sitting there, picking at their food, kind of a general lack of excitement out there. Nothing like a cocktail. Yeah, a half cocked wall. Yeah, which I think is one of the things that Prince used that for. For was one of his sound kind of things. Um, the guitar market should not ever stop you from making music. Don't let the industry weirdness really just destroy that feeling to be creative. You know. Good enough for Prince, good enough for me any day, dude, was the master. Yep. He had that Mad Cat Tally, yep. Um, and so, honestly speaking, guys, we're going to be in this general malaise for a while. And I predict that the secondhand market in the States is going to be interesting. I think that I think the prices are going to continue to go up, but is the demand there? We'll see. If the demand is not there, over here there is demand, but we got to bring the prices down, and that's just the way it is, or the best that you can. So, guys, bear witness to the fact that we are in for it. I love those stories about how Las Vegas is failing. Honolulu, Hawaii is having a problem in terms of tourism, as it turns out these days. Um, and I don't think I know a lot of that has to do with the JPY US dollar exchange rate. It's not favorable for the Japanese, so they're not going to be flying over to Honolulu in droves, trust me. But it is favorable for the Americans. That's why everybody and their mom is going over to Japan from the States and everywhere and a lot of other places as well. And so, and Vegas, when you're charging $15 for a can of Coke, you're smoking crack. And on top of that, the fact that a lot of the big rollers are from other countries and they don't feel like getting rousted when they show up at the airport. So that kind of killed that golden egg as well. There's a lot of interesting things going out there. And I can extend that into the guitar market as well, of course, is where I'm going with this, is that these this is my after show commentary during the show, but after show commentary. But these things that we see occurring in the guitar market are nothing but reflections of the general, real estate out there in terms of inflation, consumer confidence, a number of things. Boy, this has just been flying by here. Let me catch up here in the chat, guys. The early generation of guitar pedals with screens, Boss, Digitech, Zoom were such a headache to navigate. The new generation, like the Helix, like stuff, is much easier to use. Yeah, Scott. Again, honestly, I didn't. It doesn't come with instructions, by the way. Dig that. If you want to see a manual, you have to go online with this thing. But without even doing all that and just looking at one YouTube video, I think the day before it showed up, I was able to navigate through this thing and get it exactly to do what I need to do. That's great because if you've ever had to deal with, like, for example, some of the old roll and rack mount unit stuff, that stuff to navigate through was a headache, just a headache. So there's that. Um, Lost wages circulating the drain right now. Yeah, there's that too. There's that. Absolutely, Mike. Lee. Hey, Lee, how you doing? Welcome. Any thoughts on Japan strats like Hybrid 2? Wonder about quality of trim on them. 2-point trims are so crappy, all made in Mexico. Yeah, I understand that. Everybody wants a 6-point trim, and I prefer. I don't like 2-point trim either. I like a 6-point trim. But just so you know, on this channel, since I am actually an importer of Japanese guitars, that's my specialty. It's what I do as one of my businesses. So I'm just gonna just tell you right now that you can't go wrong with a Japanese guitar if that's your question. My thoughts on the Hybrid 2 is if you can get one at a reasonable price and you can avoid some of the hidden fees of getting it over, I would get it over. Mike, are rally cry songs dead? Is there any slogan songs like "We got to get out of this place today," or "We will rock you," or stadium? Well, no, because there's no individual bands. There's no the culture is dying. The culture and and radio created those kind of anthems and themes anyway, where everybody was hearing the release of an album worldwide in some cases at the same time. That kind of 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 world doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, they're kind of dead, in my opinion. I've said it before, Ben says, I'll say it again. If all guitar manufacturers permanently halted production, there would still be more than enough guitars for everyone. I can't get over how many they pump. Yeah, I've said it myself. 3 shifts at the Indonesia Cord Factory a day, and they're going through a full cargo trailer of wood per shift per day. And it's 24 hours. It don't stop. Thought I told you that we don't stop. Yeah, hi Lee. Welcome to the chat, by the way. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Year after year. Alex, HH, Japan is so underrated. Nobody ever knows that Okinawa looks like the Maldives. Yeah, it's beautiful there. Mike, are you a fan of Michael Feinstein? No, not a fan. In the back of my mind, aware of the name, but not a fan. Ben, I think the new market is going to crater in the United States later this year. No demand. Yeah, warehouse full of stuff. Yeah, like I said, that's kind of what I was alluding to there, Mike. I'm really wondering. I'm really kind of wondering here, where that U.S. market is going. There's too, I really wonder. We're going to see. Sure, going to find out. Mike, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I agree, Mike. I agree, Ben. Gonna get a 2024 Strat Raw Ash with Rosewood fretboard. So yeah, the trim is decent on them. Good thick metal. Yeah, the Japanese Goto parts, and I do believe those are Goto trims on there. Just like everything is in manufacturing in the guitar parts world, there's your basic ones that you get on your cheapo kind of lower price guitars in terms of quality. It can still be a Goto trim, for example. For example. But then you get the mid-price Goto trim, which is made a little bit better, a little bit better quality metals, and of course, then there's one above that. And the Japanese generally just deal with these two levels. It's the Indonesian, the Vietnamese, and the Chinese guitars that have this kind of level of trims in terms of quality on it. I used to keep an example of trims up here on my desk. I don't have them, I moved them, but to give an example of that. So you could see, but yeah, you'd be doing just fine. Natural finish. I love a natural finish guitar. You're welcome for the input, sir. Gary says, send it to me, please. Yeah. Mike, did Houdini was also living in Laurel Canyon? Yes. So Houdini actually owned a very famous house right at the foot of Laurel Canyon and Sunset. It burned down, but he was one of and this is, of course, in the 1920s, but this is one of the interesting ties in with Hollywood, Laurel Canyon, and up in from the period of the 20s until the mid 60s and the period that we've been discussing, um, a number of celebrities as well. So there you have the entertainment industry tie-ins with Laurel Canyon, and a lot of some of those actors, especially during the Second World War and even after that, were assets, government assets. So there you have military intelligence going on. So that has been a hot spot since the 1920s. Three Court Dave. Three Court Dave, how are you doing? It's so weird. I was thinking about you, man. I was, just hoping you were doing all right. You came into my mind very, very recently, man. It is good to see you, sir. My fault of mine not to be reaching out to you a little bit sooner since you were on my mind, but you reached out first. So good to see you, man. Good to see you. I hope you've been well. Rage Against the Machine. Yeah. Good to see you, Dave, here, guys. Yeah, so thanks, man. It's been crazy busy lately, but hoping to be around more soon. Well, God bless you, man. Busy's good. I'm trying to get busy, trying to keep busy. Really trying to keep busy. And that's good. And you're always welcome. You're always welcome. Always welcome here. Yeah, so that's the answer to that, Scott. Honestly, the shenanigans up there in that particular part of LA have been going on since the 1920s if you dig into the history of it. So there's that. You know, I think that, again, getting back to the commentary, that the game is afoot with the economic conditions are being papered over. You are being told that things are better than they are. But you're again, it's like the woman who comes home and finds her husband in bed with another woman, and she says, "You bastard," and he says, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're going to believe me or your lying eyes?" Well, it's kind of the same thing when it comes to the reality of the economics out there, and I think that this is going to play a great role in decision making with a lot of people buying gear going forward. If I can get something like this Pocket Master for 50 bucks and be more than satisfied with it, and the fact that, by the way, the NAM files, when you load them in here, the volumes drop on them, is my understanding. I haven't done any yet because I don't see the need for it. That's not what I got it for. But that might be something too for you guys to be aware of, that they're not really. Yes, there's 5 slots to load NAM files in. However, a lot of those NAM files are recorded at a higher sampling rate, and this is a 44.1, I believe, on this. Yes, I do believe that's true. So a little bit lower sampling rate, and the output drops down. However, if you're using an external boost pedal, then that can make up for that volume drop. But I'm not gonna fart around with that kind of stuff, to be honest with you, because again, I got it for the effects and the cabinets, the preamps. I got that covered. Distortion, got that covered. I think again, a hybrid analog digital answer, so a Pocket Master along with some really great analog pedals is really your solution, because the sound of this thing, when it's coupled with great analog pedals, keeping those analog pedal manufacturers in business, because it's important. I wouldn't want to just rely on this. I really wouldn't. I'm not satisfied. I would not be satisfied with the sound of this unit by itself. But the sound of this unit coupled with really nice analog pedals, believe me, it's the best of both worlds, and you'll be very happy. And again, you can make it your own pedal board. You can design it, shape it tonally, whatever way you want to make it your own. You're not just flipping through presets and using what 50 other guitar players out there are using. And that's a beautiful thing too. And once you got it set, you set it just like you would set an amp, except for this amp's got, it's got a few bells and whistles to it, like effects. But you set it like that, and once I turn this unit on, I'm not screwing with it. I'm not touching it. And so, yeah, um, it's just something. Kind of like we were told they landed spaceship and planted a flag on the moon. Yeah, if you believe they had a man on the moon. Isn't that what somebody wrote once? I don't know about that. I don't get into those things, guys, because again, went to the moon, didn't go to the moon. It never minds me, to be frank. It really doesn't. In the big scope of things, not really. No. What's more interesting to me again is really just trying to navigate what's happening here on Earth. First of all, second of all, is really just to take a look at this market that we're in and trying to navigate that. Unfortunately, I have to do that as a business kind of thing. And third of all, uh, just looking at things in general and trying to read the tea leaves, read the room, as I always say, and see what the room is saying. And right now, the room is saying that things are no bueno, regardless of how much they try to paper it over, no matter how much they try to tell us that things aren't as they are. We can pretty much well sense it. Said hi, DZ. How you doing? Welcome. So there is that, my friends. Um, Yesterday when I went to the sales event here at Amsterdam Harbor, um, with all the boats, and I just saw some of the most gorgeous boats I've ever seen in my life. Full schooners, sloops, even a full-on pirate boat, a real pirate boat that sails the seven seas. It left here and it's on its way back to Spain. Um, Walked that, met some friends, some Japanese friends. I sat down, had drinks with them, and then because there was no way you're going to get a tram out of there, I had to walk back to Central Station. From where I was to Central Station was about, I'd say it was about a good 2 kilometer walk. And I walk a lot, but walking 2 kilometers with Disneyland levels of crowds of people, that can be a little bit draining. So I say all that to make excuses other than pointing out the fact that I'm an old man. And I think we'll call it a close for tonight's live stream because I'm tired. my, my, my body, it's funny. When you get older, when you work out, you feel it not the next day, but the day after that. And I'm sitting here and I'm starting to feel it. So, so hoist up the John's B sales. Yes, God. So thanks, guys. Check out my videos on the Pocket Master. Yes, I milk the hell out of it, but again, that's what I'm going to do. If YouTube demands that I do shorts, which I've been refusing to do up until now, I'm going to do them now, but I'm just going to make them short edits of the regular videos. But again, ironically, if you look at the numbers of those, you'll find this interesting, Dave, is that I did a regular video, barely 50, 60 views. I did a clip, a short, of the same exact content, just condensed down, and that thing is 500, 600 views. It's obvious that there's a push there, but you're more versed in that than I am, Dave. But it's an obvious thing. But anyway, guys, check it out. I will talk to you soon, and God bless. I will be back on Wednesday, God willing. Hope you guys will too. Until then, be good. See you guys around. Ciao. Bye bye.